everyone. How are you today? We're going to get started in just a minute. Feel free to turn your cameras on if you're not driving. We'd love to see your beautiful faces. All right. I'd love to know where you're joining us from. If you'd love to put it in the chat, I'm in northern New South Wales in Kingscliff. I'd love for you to type in the chat whereabouts are you joining us from. Hello, Grant. Good to see you. Rhonda, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us, Gabrielle and Glenn. Roger, see Jan Marie's joining us too. You don't have to have your camera on, but it's nice for Robert to be able to see who is here with us tonight. And be great if we can have a bit of an interactive Q&A for our amazing superstar tonight. All right, so as we're coming in, just put in the chat where you're joining us from. Rhonda from Townsville, Bill, welcome from Port Macquarie. Rebecca, good to see you from Melbourne. Thanks for joining everyone and your support for this amazing, incredible man. Glenn coming in from Castlemaine in Victoria. Fantastic. Just waiting on a few more people to come in, and as they're coming in, as I said, if you can turn your cameras on, we'd love to see your beautiful faces. All righty. Welcome, Gabrielle, all the way from Los Angeles. Now, that is impressive, Gabrielle. Wow, we've got this international online book launch, which is amazing. I love technology when it works. I think Caroline's joining us from New Zealand. Hello, Jan Marie, looking beautiful today, as always.
Thank you.
Welcome, Barry.
Let's get
Good
cheese.
to be here. All right, as you come in, we'll just make sure that your microphone's on mute, and you will get an opportunity to speak if you have a question for our guest tonight. All righty, now, before we get started, I would just like to introduce very quickly, we have an amazing program manager here with us to support us, Roxanne Dow from Roxy's Events. She's going to give us a wave there. She will just be typing in the chat, monitoring the questions, and just supporting Robert throughout today's event as well as myself. So tonight isn't just about a book launch. Tonight is about celebrating. It's about leadership. It's about responsibility and what it really means to live with freedom. Who wants more freedom in their life? Yes, we all do, don't we? So my name is Melissa Groom. I'm the host of the Expert Authority Show, and I'm really honored to be here with you for this official book launch. Now, I just want to go through some housekeeping before we get started. So this event will go for around 1 hour. And as I said, we would love for you to have your cameras on, unless, of course, you are driving. I do understand some of you might be cooking dinner and having kids in the background, so that's okay. If you are new to Zoom, just a very quick run through on Zoom. Up the top right, you see the view button. If you press that, you can go to gallery view and you'll be able to see everyone there, or speaker view. Then down the bottom, you will see the audio button on the left. You please keep yourself on mute unless we ask you to unmute yourself and ask a question. The next one along there is the video camera where you can turn your camera on and off. Roxy, we just got someone in wanting to come in. And then if you scroll along that, you'll see the chat bar. I can see that everyone is knows where that is. And then you've got the love heart button, which is it says react. So if you could click that button where it says react, and you will see emojis pop up, and we'd love for you to give us some love. Give us some love for Robert, everybody. Excellent. Love it. All right. Now, the other thing we do when we are on Zoom, if you want to give an online clap, we call them jazz hands. So when we want to do an applause, we can do this. All right. Okay, so are we just to run through the agenda tonight? I'm just going to have a casual conversation with Robert. He's going to read a little excerpt in the book. We've got a few little surprises in here that are hopefully going to spark ignite something inside of you to, think differently, walk away today and think, what else could I do to have that ultimate freedom in my life? Now, before we get started, I just want to mention there will be an in-person book launch coming up on the 25th of March. Roxy's going to put the details in the chat. It's at Homefront Australia, Level 4, 16 Marie Street, Milton, Queensland. And I also wanted to mention you can go to pre-order Robert's book at his website, robertkilsby.com. And if you'd like to connect with Robert, you can connect with him on LinkedIn or Facebook. And if you know anyone that wants a great speaker, please do connect with Robert there on LinkedIn. And he would love to come to your school or your event and talk to you about ultimate freedom. Now, who's excited to get started? Give me the jazz hands or the thumbs up. Yes. Now, before we get started, I have a very quick video that I'd like to share with you from Robert. So I'm just going to share my screen. And just 1 second.
Robert Kilsby, SAS combat veteran, keynote speaker, thought leader, and creator of Ultimate Freedom, the 5 fundamental principles to being in charge of yourself.
I was born up in the desert, coal mining town way up in the north of South Australia.
Freedom is not a finish line. It's how you live your life.
And then I joined the army the day after Armstrong landed on the moon, and I was a fully badged SAS trooper before I was 18 and a half.
Life is a risky business. None of us get out of it alive. It's sort of guaranteed, like taxes.
And we went to Vietnam the following year. So I trained up.
Sport, business, and warfare are all the same activities. It's just the stakes that are different.
I love Vietnam, I love the warfare, I love the operations, I'm a warrior, right?
So I went to a psychiatrist. She was just about retired, but she'd had a lot to do with Vietnam veterans. She said, actually, you've got one of the worst cases of PTSD I've ever seen in a Vietnam veteran. Straight to my face. The reason we're here today is from choices we made yesterday. The wind blows the same for everybody. It's the set of the sails that make the difference.
You know, if you're not running your own life, someone else is running it. And I find that when you're in charge of yourself, you are free. You're ultimately free.
So awareness. Awareness is our 4th principle of how to be in charge of yourself. We must be self-aware, we must be socially aware, and we must be situational aware. Commitment does not arrive by accident. You have to bring it. You have to apply it again and again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Robert Kilsby.
Let's give him a round of applause, everyone. That's an amazing video that Robert's had created by Speakers Institute as he was over in Bali earlier this year at our keynote retreat. So amazing work from you there, Robert. Now we are getting stuck into the official launch of the Ultimate Freedom to be in charge of yourself. I'm truly honored to be here today for this launch, and I'd like to now read Robert's introduction. So, Robert Kilsby is a former Australian Special Operations soldier who served in some of the most demanding environments imaginable, including active service in Vietnam. Those experiences forged a deep understanding of resilience, adaptability, and leadership under pressure. But Robert's story doesn't end on the battlefield. For more than 25 years since his military service, he has dedicated his life to helping individuals and organisations develop the mindset and leadership skills needed to navigate challenges, uncertainty, and change. As a keynote speaker, mentor, and leadership advisor, he has guided thousands of people to regain clarity, confidence, and control in both their professional and personal lives. At the heart of Robert's work, he is a powerful philosophy that true freedom begins when you take ownership of your mindset, your decisions, and your direction in life. His new book, Ultimate Freedom, brings together the 5 fundamental principles that help people step into that level of self leadership, to live by design rather than by default, and to truly be in charge of themselves. So tonight, we're not just celebrating, the launch of a book. We're celebrating the ideas, the lessons, and the life experience behind it. Please welcome in, giving a round of applause to Robert Kilsby. Hello, Robert. You have to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Mel, and thanks to everyone for coming along tonight. We've got people from both right around Australia and overseas, so it's a brilliant thing. And thanks, Roxy, for supporting us in the backdrop there. It's great to see everybody that I can see on the cameras. So it's always sort of a remote conversation, but it's also pretty good when you can see faces and all the smiles. So thank you very much. I'm privileged to be here.
Thank you, Robert. Now, Robert, tell us, why did you write the book? What was it inside of you that just sparked that flame to say, I must write this book, Ultimate Freedom, and get it out there to the world?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of people ask me that, and because many of them have been saying to me for a few years, saying, "Come on, you've had an interesting life. Why don't you write a book? Remember, the kids won't remember you unless you write a book," and all those sort of good things. And I've always thought, well, I was just doing my job, who'd be interested in that stuff. But when I ended what I call my third battlefield, and had to retire from being a rally driver, I thought, right, I'm going to be a keynote speaker and give my experience lessons to other people if I can. And that's when I decided that I had to really write it down in a book as partly my intellectual property per se, but at the front of the book of those people who've read it and those people who will read it, you'll see that I actually had to write my story as if I'd written a book about myself, because how else can people know where these principles come from, for example, So I've sort of fallen into my own trap, and I've had to write the book, and that's really what it was for. But it's been a very interesting process for me because I've never written a book before. I've done a lot of writing and speaking and so on, but I've never written an actual book before and gone through the publishing and so on. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting experience. And now, despite not going to write one book, I'm now embarking on a second book. So how crazy is that?
Very good. And who were you thinking of when you were actually writing the book or thinking about writing the book? Who's the book for, Robert?
Well, yeah, the message behind Ultimate Freedom is actually quite a deep and profound message. And when you get into writing books and so on, I know from a lot of other authors, a lot of our authors tend to be working in a niche area, where they're really targeting their audience, particularly for that particular message. But in my case, the deep and profound message is really from anybody who's now, I'm told by some mothers who've read it, from primary school right through to 60 plus sort of thing, male and female, no problems. Because everyone that I've talked to actually has and I've said, this is what I'm doing, and they, about Ultimate Freedom, and they said, oh yeah, well, I'd like to be in charge of myself too. How do you do that stuff? So really, it's quite a broad and deep, profound message. But there's many things you can take from it. You can't do it all at once, but you've got to do it holistically. With the 5 principles there that I've put together. And just to finish off that, it's not a new thing. This has been going on for thousands of years in the human existence. It's just that I've sort of tried to put it in a modern context and use my own experience, because I've been living this for a long time now,
Yeah.
and give people the advantage of that experience.
Yeah, I know when I read it, Robert, I was just like, damn, I wish I had had this book when I was, a teenager. And I wish I had had this book when my kids were teenagers. Like, it's a real great manual for parents, but I can absolutely see them applying these principles and helping their kids. And what I love about the book is you've got little exercises in it, which we can do. So, many books you read and you just forget about it then, and you go on living your life. But you sort of open up a chapter, look at the exercise, and then just ponder on that and reflect on that throughout the week and see where you can apply this principle to your life, which I think is fantastic. Um, so I want to just ask you, what does being in charge of yourself mean?
Well, as I mentioned, a little soundbite in the video that you were able to play there. If you're not running your life, someone else is. So so if someone else is, or something else is, it really means you're not running yourself, and therefore you're not free. And in a simple way.
Mm,
But it's interesting that even if you're, there's the thing that I read in recent times. This didn't affect the writing of the book at all, but it was sort of a confirmation of it in a way. A lady called Bronnie Ward, who had written the top 5 secrets of the dying last year. She was a palliative care nurse for a long time, 12 years or more, and she was very smart and very caring. And she wrote down and observed and wrote down all these statements that people, basically on their deathbeds had said, and about their regrets. And the one that was actually that came out by far more than the other 4, even of the top ones, was that I wish that I'd had the courage to live my own life rather than the lives that others expected of me. I wish I'd had the courage to do that, And so this was a great confirmation of the things that I've been living for decades. And so to be in charge of yourself it's basically self-mastery or self-leadership. It's the foundation level of leadership, in fact. As Seneca said 2,000 years ago, if you can't lead yourself, you're not going to be able to lead other people, which is absolutely true. So, yeah,
yeah.
it's a very powerful thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what about the word freedom? I used to think myself, I'd love for the viewers here, I'd love for you to put in the chat, when you think of the word freedom, what comes up for you? Just put it in the chat.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because everyone's probably going to have a different answer.
Mm,
I would think, due to their own experiences and the people they met and the movies they've seen and all those sort of things.
yeah.
Um, in my case, what I've observed is that most people, again, niche this. They niche it, and that, so they think in terms of, say, finance. I want to be financially free.
Mhm.
Or, I'd like to be free of the neighbours because they're giving me the irrits. You know, I'd like to live in another country because, this is not what I wanted, or something like that, or vice versa.
Mhm.
So they tend to niche it down and pick things that where they'd like to be free of. But freedom to me is the ability to live your own life the way you want to,
Mm.
at the same time helping others. And it's not a selfish thing. It's actually I always think of the safety brief on aircraft, where they say when the oxygen comes down, put your own mask on first so you can help your child or your neighbour put theirs on if you have to. I think it's a really, really powerful sort of anecdote
Yeah.
about freedom. And you can't help others if you can't, first be situated in a stable situation yourself. So that's what freedom means to me, is literally being in charge of yourself. You look in the mirror and say, am I in charge of myself? It's always a good question in the morning.
Yeah, we've got many different perspectives coming through in the chat. Responsibility for choices made, having the courage to be yourself, having the choice to do what I want when I want. No one controls me. I have strong boundaries, so I am me through and through, the freedom to be me. Freedom, the power to be my authentic self, being able to make choices freely, choosing when to lead, when to be led, when to walk beside, and when to walk alone. Oh, wow, Bill, I love that. Choice to live life as I'd like to while serving others. Beautiful. My life shared as I choose. Excellent. Yes, I sort of thought freedom was doing what I want when I want, but after I read your book, I have a different perspective now about freedom. And I think having structure in your life, which is something I didn't know, as a young child, what structure was, that having structure can give you freedom as well. So it's not necessarily being loose and having no being able to do what you want when you want, because that's not being in charge of yourself, I don't think, if you don't have some structure and guidance as well.
No, well, the thing is that through our lives, we have a lot of things that in a sense we don't control, right? That and I've trained myself over decades to spend virtually no emotional energy on things I can't control, which sets you free, right? Straight away. But we have to conform. If we're living in an orderly world, we have to conform to a lot of things. In Australia, we think we're very overgoverned, don't we? But we've still got to conform. If you want your bins emptied, you've got to conform to putting them out, at the right time. As a simple anecdote there. But the main thing is that the first principle is choices, and life is full of choices. So if you make the choice where you want your bins emptied on the Tuesday, well you have, and you're a bit bothered about having to put them out on a Tuesday. Well, unless you want them empty, you're not going to come to it. So you've got to conform in certain things, but that's still being in charge of yourself. And indeed, making no choice is a choice.
Yeah.
You make thousands every day, of course, and most people spend a bit of time trying to come to grips with that. But it's certainly the case. And as you read in the book, when we talk about the first principle choices, that's certainly a big one. And then, of course, the second one is ownership. So that's another case in point. I will say before we go on that I love the answers there that are coming through the chat about freedom. But the reason why a lot of people find that they're not in charge of themselves is because even though the principles themselves, or all the bits and pieces to put together, to make it happen, they're relatively simple things, and we do a lot of them, routinely in our lives. But the thing is, if you want to be in charge of yourself, you've got to do it holistically. You can't do a sort of single file, or I'll do this bit first and I'll think about the other bit second, or something like that. You've got to look at it from a holistic angle, and that's where it becomes difficult. And that's indeed reason why that people right even into their middle age onwards, they're still trying to get on top of this. And which is a segue to saying, if you can get this message to young people, and I'm talking about primary school kids with parent guidance, and certainly 15, 18-year-olds at high school and colleges and what have you, and even universities, then they're going to be, if they can get hold of these things early, they're going to be superb adults by the time they're in their 20s. Brilliant. So I'm pretty passionate about all this stuff. It just works like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Robert, I do believe you're going to read a very short excerpt from the book.
Yeah, I can do that for sure. I'll give it a crack. This actually, I think the appropriate bit is actually what I wrote in the book, effectively as a conclusion, to the manuscript, and I call it, instead of calling it the conclusion, I call it the journey of ultimate freedom, to round up the book there. So I'll read that here if you like. Okay, so here we are. Having travelled through the 5 fundamental principles: choices, ownership, goals, awareness, and commitment, we now stand on the other side of the bridge, looking back at the path we've crossed and forward at the life still to be lived. These fundamental principles are not abstract theories or armchair philosophies. They are a personal operating system, forged in the crucible of real-world experience, designed to bring you into command of the one life you have. When combined and applied with courage, clarity, and consistency, they become the foundation blocks of what I call ultimate freedom, being fully in charge of yourself. Ultimate freedom does not promise an easy life, but it does promise a deeply worthwhile one. There will be setbacks and obstacles, blind corners, and tough days. That's a given. But with these principles in hand, you are equipped with a framework that can withstand the storms and magnify the winds. You won't just drift with the tides of circumstance. You'll become the skilled navigator of your own course. You'll know how to choose well, take responsibility, set meaningful goals, and see clearly and persist through to the finish line. You'll also discover that the more in charge of yourself you are, the more value you can offer to others. And in doing so, you can create a life of deep meaning and personal contribution. Now, to younger readers, students especially, I say this with the greatest sincerity: do not wait. You don't need to wait for a title, a job, or someone else's permission to start becoming the kind of person who can lead themselves. The earlier you start working these principles into your daily life, the more powerful the compound effect becomes. Just as small choices today shape your identity tomorrow, so too will your early ownership of self give you a longer runway to fly higher, faster, and more freely than you may yet imagine. You'll avoid many of the unexpected potholes that come from drifting aimlessly or reacting emotionally. You'll arrive at adulthood already ahead of the pack, not just in achievement, but in character. Whether you are 16 or 60, the path to ultimate freedom is open to you. The best day to start was yesterday. The second best day is today. You have everything within you to be in charge of yourself. These principles are your compass, your shield, and your tool set. So take them seriously, take them personally, and then take them forward. As the great Teddy Roosevelt said, the credit belongs to those in the arena. So step in, step up, stand tall. And in fact, I'll read Teddy Roosevelt's quote because it's probably one of my very favorite quotes. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who knows the great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself at a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of great achievement, and if he fails, at least fails daring greatly. So his place shall never be with those cold, timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And right at the end, I've got my last quote in the book from Yoda, from Star Wars, appropriately. Do or do not do. There is no try. And my signature sign-off line, of course, it's always too soon to quit. Thank you.
Well, let's give him a round of applause, everyone. Thank you, Robert. I'd love for you to put in the chat, what is something, a word or a phrase or something that you caught from that reading from Robert? What did you take away from that? I love the you'll arrive at adulthood ahead of the pack. I wanted that when I was a teenager. But I also love skilled navigator of your own course too. I was like, I like that. I like that. Best day to start is yesterday, Dan said.
Yeah, the thing is that, going back to the one that you like first there, Melissa, is that you know, with our young people, and you know, we're all the same when we started out. You know, you really want to fit in, you know, with your group, and you know, you want to be loved, and you want to be recognised and identified, and have a sense of belonging, you know, outside your own family, of course. You know, at school and you know, in sport and so on. So this is a really, you know, but the thing is that continues on, and you end up most people not living the life really that they wanted to live. So that's you know, doing the full loop there. That's where that comes from.
Yeah. Now, just before we go on, if you haven't purchased Robert's book, Ultimate Freedom, you can purchase a copy at robertkilsby.com. So if you want to purchase the book, if you already have or you're going to, put a yes in the chat. I've got my signed copy here. And as I said, it is a manual for life for your family. I think it's a great legacy piece. I think it should be sitting on your coffee table and you pick it up and think, okay, what principle are we going to apply in our family or in our life today? So head over to robertkilsby.com and you can purchase the book. All right. So Robert, I just wanted to ask you, tell me a little story where you had a challenge in your life and you overcame it by applying one of the principles that you are teaching in your book.
Yeah, yeah. It's when I first started, I thought, you know, I don't have any stories. I mean, nothing really happened to me. You know, probably a lot of people think that. And but of course, as I started thinking about my past and all the myriad of things that I've done in my life, you know, I've had a long, full life, and I today, you know, I've one of my superpowers is having 65 plus years of observed experience in my back pocket. Um, and I'm just observing it more and more as I'm pushing myself through the book writing and the speaking and so on. But I noticed that this goes back a long way for me, because I had the advantage, in a sense. I had the great Huckleberry Finn life of being able to be brought up to be independent and have a crack. Right, so you know, a lot of kids aren't that fortunate, and they have difficult upbringing sometimes, and it takes a while to get over that. That's for sure. But in my case, all kudos to my brilliant parents. They just let me fly at an early age, and when I was so these principles actually were in play. I didn't know anything about principles, of course, back when I was 12, which this story comes from. But when I was 12 years old, I worked out that I had a fear of being alone in the bush in the dark. And I'm actually reading this from the book because I couldn't say it any better twice. So so I had a fear. You know, I thought, well, you know, I'm going to be scared of the dark. But I had some good learnings and experience, you know, bushwalking, camping, and outdoors cooking, for example, from being a keen and active boy cub and scout, if anyone can remember those days. But that was always in the company of others, you know, adult supervision and mates and so on. And looking back from this book now, this was the first time that fundamental principles number 1 and 2, that's, you know, choices and ownership, came into my experience, actually, now that I know that. Me being me, and in particular, my dad being he, I decided that I had to do something about it, starting young, right? 12 years old. And I've actually embedded a little quote in here into the book from an unknown author. And it says, dive deep into your fear, face it, embrace it, make friends with it. This doesn't mean you will no longer have fear. It means fear will no longer have you, which I thought was an appropriate story. Now, when I talked to Dad about this, you know, about being maybe scared of the dark, he said simply, well, Robs, what do you want to do about it? I laid out my plan. This was for Mum and Dad to drop me off on the main Adelaide to Port Augusta Highway at Mambray Creek. It runs along parallel with the Flinders Ranges there. And then I'd bushwalk over a couple of days east across some farmlands, through the foothills, and then through the Flinders Ranges by a place called Alligator Gorge to pick up at the Gorge picnic ground at the top of the ranges there. just a 2-day hike if nothing went wrong. Agreement from my intrepid parents, along with some sensible safety briefing from my very capable dad, and I was on my way. Packed up with 3 days' food, some extra water bottles, cooking and tent bedding gear, and importantly, not only my 2 smaller sheath knives, but also my big Bowie knife made for me by my 18-year-old uncle, Uncle Harry, from a car spring. Whatever the lonely dark may bring, it wasn't going to get me. Mum was later to recount in her broad Scottish accent, as my baby boy walked towards the hills across the first paddock, which I noticed had a large bull in it, looking just like a big pack with 2 young bare legs protruding beneath, I couldn't help but feel a wee anxious. As it turned out, this was to be one of the most memorable times of my long life to now. At home, with the awesome beauty of nature around me in our solitude, setting up camp next to a babbling brook in a semi-pine forest and eucalypt glade, getting cracking with cooking a delicious canned baked bean meal and glorying in my peace and wonder mindset, and sitting warmed by my excellent campfire. Later, when the wind came up and the moonlight flitted among the moving trees, making sounds that I was unsure of ever having heard before, I bravely took up residence in my prepared tent, ensuring the door was zipped up tight and all 3 of my knives were laid out along with my tactical defence plan beside me. Bravo, slept like a baby. Et voila. When I awoke to a beautiful sunny day, a babbling brook and a zephyr breeze, I knew then at 12 years old that I was not afraid of the dark or of many other things, which has continued to this day. So that's a little story from the book, and that's the two first principles in operation.
Very good. Let's give a round of applause. I think we should send all of our 12-year-olds out in the bush and learn some skills and responsibility of being in charge of themselves, because if they turn out like you, Robert, then it's a good thing, right? All righty. Now, I just wanted to ask, I just want to let you know there will be some prizes that will be given away tonight if you stick around to the end. So I just want to mention that. Robert, I just wanted to ask you when we've got a few questions that have been submitted in, but I first of all would like to see if there's anyone here live with us that has a question that would like to ask Robert about the book or being in the, the armed services or anything like that. Feel free to raise your hand and we will unmute you. Barry.
Yeah, Rob, good to see you. Rob's a good mate, and I was grateful to be able to put a review in his book. But Rob, you have this incredible capacity to distill complex issues into very simple tools. And I often think that's indicative of the tier one mindset. I know, having worked with veterans here and in the USA for a long time, that this book, one, is gold for guys that are transitioning, and also 2, for school kids. What are your thoughts around the applicability of your book within a school situation?
Yeah, good one, Barry, and thanks very much for writing a little review there in the book. It's very valuable to me, and I appreciate your thoughts about this, being a published author yourself of a couple of books there as well, and all the work you do with not only kids these days, but sort of veterans and first responder guys as well. So well done, mate. Yeah. So with the kids, I find that I think all of us here, vast majority of people on the call here are parents, I'm sure, or maybe even the younger guys will remember their own school days. But people, and you're a school psychologist down in Sydney there too, Barry. Of course, you know this very well. That kids these days have got a lot of problems, a lot more than we had when the old baby boomer kids days. in particular, I think it's got to do with there's so much more choice now. You know, it's very hard to decide where you're going to go if you've got a multi-lane highway in front of you and you're not sure which lane to run up. And so this in a sense simple toolbox is great for people in their teens who are beset by a lot of anxiety, most of which is never going to happen, but anxiety all the same. And of course, with what with social media and I call it people call it the information age, but I call it the information bombardment age, Barry, as you well know from your own experience in the schools there. But I think it's a very important thing where it gives teenagers in particular a set of rules which are not difficult to understand at all. And the book, as you know, is very easy to read. I've written it particularly so everyone can read it well without having to go to the dictionary for big words or anything like that. It's got some pictures even in it for people like me. So it's easy for teenagers to understand and apply and they don't have to apply it all at once, but if they can get going at a young age, as I said in the conclusion there, man, they're going to be brilliant by the time they're in their 20s, as long as they just apply it. The last principle is commitment. So all the principles are good, but if you don't have that commitment, but you don't have to commit to living your whole life at once. So you can get started as a teenager, and it's very powerful, Barry, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Anyone else would like to ask Robert a question? Jean-Marie?
Robert, nice to meet you. I'm interested in exactly if there was someone sitting in front of you, a young person, what would be your approach to actually open the conversation? Where they're going to actually.
Well, I would thanks, Jean-Marie. Appreciate it. It's a really good question because I'm sure it applies to all of us when we think, especially with our own children as well. Our own kids, teenagers, because they're very curious, about where do they go from here. And I would say I like the power of this procedure. I would say ask yourself this question because if they come up with the answer, they'll own it, right? It's a very powerful psychological methodology. Ask yourself this question. And the question would be initially, and among many, would be, what do you really want to do with your life in a general sense? And I've got this procedure in my life that I always work from the general to the specific. So I'd start with the general questions and then gradually niche down and follow the rabbit down the rabbit hole, so to speak, in the conversation. And I find that's pretty useful. So I would say, where do you want to go? And now, if they can't answer that, you say, well, what's important to you in your life? Ask yourself that question. Because as the great speakers of today understand, and the psychologists, the why is the most important thing in your life. Really, it gives you clarity. Why now? Why me? What's it all about? Alfie, as the movie said. So that's the start point, I'd say, Jean-Marie. And then you can start to specialize in, they say, well, actually, let's for example, they say, well, I love music. I come alive when I'm playing with the other guys in the music thing. And so then you can start to, maybe narrow the conversation down to there. So ask yourself this question: what do I like about music most? Do I like, producing, or do I like playing an instrument, et cetera, et cetera? So that's the sort of methodology I'd have, and Jean-Marie. But get them to answer their own question, and they will take it on board. Then, as I say in the sales business, telling ain't selling. So get the kids are smart, but they need an opportunity to strike their own balance and say their own stuff. and then you can guide them as so, applicably. I think. Hope that covers your question, Jen.
Well, I guess I would be wondering also how they felt about music. How did music make them feel?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because the emotional quotient is always very important. And the thing is, you've got to be careful a little bit with it, because the human psychology is such that we bend towards pleasure, not pain, right? We go to the easy stuff. I heard the statement today is, a hard right is better than an easy wrong. Always, do the right thing. If you do it hard, and often it's a hard thing to do. It's moral courage and all sorts of things mixed in there. So, I think you got to be careful that we don't sort of. I think this is a problem with social media and all the rest of it, is that people try to chase this so-called happiness or something, a little bit too much, whereas actually the most reward actually comes from defeats, not victory. It comes from being challenged and in being uncomfortable. So I think that it's more like you've got to ask them to and challenge themselves, because that's where the rewards will ultimately lie, and they'll see that they'll pick it up.
Okay.
We
Thanks,
have a couple of questions. Thank you, Jane Marie. Glenn, do you want to unmute yourself and ask Robert your question?
Yeah, g'day, Bob. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, Glenn. Thanks for being here tonight.
Very special, mate. I'm very, very glad to be here. Bob and I have spoken a lot. Having Bob in my ear is quite a normal thing. Look, mate, on page 87, it's owning your own beliefs and growth. Now, we spoke a lot about this previously. Do you think today a lot of people don't own their own beliefs? They tend to follow a pack very, very quickly and easily, influenced by, as you just said, social media?
Yeah, I think you've picked a good part out of the book there, Glenn, to talk about, because this is, as I mentioned before about the kids, they want to, early on, they want to fit in, they want to be recognised, they want to be welcome, they want to be loved, and so on, which is a normal human trait, right? It's just normal. But I think just give me that quote again, just real quick.
You've got owning your own beliefs and growth. Then towards the back, you've got choose one limiting belief about yourself, journal, research, and talk to someone who can help you reframe that limiting belief. Commit to a new approach to reduce and eliminate it. Winston Churchill, the price of greatness is responsibility.
Yeah. I remember writing in the book as well. The thing that illustrates this quite well is that most people that I've met who may have unfortunately had what I call a blame list. They worked out all the bad things that happened to them, and they got a big list of people and things and events and all sorts of things they blame. They blame the government, the neighbour, even members of their own family. They blame the weather even. It's crazy. But what I did notice over a long period of time, that virtually none of those people, they're good people, just ordinary nice people, but none of them had their own name on the list. And this is sort of goes against the principle of ownership. You have to own your own actions and the responsibilities for their consequences. This is one of the things that's going to set you free. Whereas if you're always blaming other people, that you can use the past, for example, in two ways. You can use it as a school to learn from, or you can use it as a club to beat yourself with. Now, guess what? Most people choose the latter, right? unfortunately. It takes them a
Good
long
on
time to get out of that.
It certainly does, yeah. I'll let you go to some other people, mate. So,
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's a good question.
I'm just mindful of the time here. I just wanted to ask Robert, what do you hope people feel at the end of reading your book?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not. This is a very, as I said right in the start, this is a very deep and profound message, right? And everyone has to array it against themselves in their own way. But what I've found with the message already, talking to it over many decades, really, with a lot of people, and also writing the book and the reaction to that is that I think the feeling of freedom is sort of this being set you free. Everyone knows how they say the weight on the shoulders. The there's actually a physiological fact. If you're stressed and worried about something, you actually feel. Well, I do. In the past, you think, crikey, you feel actually a weight on your shoulders. And you think, I thought they only wrote about that in books, but there it is. So when you're become in charge of yourself, you're going to feel really, really good. You're going to feel calm. You're going to feel stable. You're going to feel like you can address any problem that comes. I don't worry about problems to come. I know I'll deal with all of them in the right way. I've just got that. It's not a confidence, but it's just clarity, because I've been there, done that, and I've applied these principles to that. So I know that if other people do that, they're going to feel the same, just fantastic. And that's that's why I call it ultimate freedom. That it's not just free from this or free from that or free to that or free to do that or something. It's ultimate freedom. It's a holistic, just brilliant feeling. And then you can get on with your real life.
I love that, Robert. I actually wrote down stable because that is a good word, especially where we are right now in the world. I know
Oh,
when
yes.
I finished reading it, I went, great. I now have the toolkit for self-mastery, and I also have the manual. Anytime I get stuck with the kids, I can go to that book. Now I'm going to hand it over to Roxanne. Thank you everyone for your questions, for being here. Roxanne is going to choose. She's going to spin the wheel, and she's got all your names in there, and we're going to draw some prizes. Roxanne, if you want to tell them once they've spun the wheel what they've won.
Okay, everyone. I'm actually going to try and share my screen so you can see the wheel going around because it's exciting to do as well. Let's have a look and see. I've got all your names on there, hopefully. Please let me know if you see that I haven't. All right, you should be able to see this amazing wheel. Let's click it and see who is going to win. Away we go. And, oh, I've lost you. There you go. It is Rosalind. Okay, so Rosalind, I have the pleasure of letting you know that you will actually receive a signed copy and a special message from Robert inside your book. Okay, you'll just need to reach out to Robert and let him know on his email address, which I'll pop through shortly. But Robert has very kindly offered us a couple more. So I'm just going to spin. I'm going to take out Rosalind's name there, and then I'm going to spin it again. Let me see. Take out Rosalind. Off we go, and it should let me spin it again now that it's... Let me see if I can click this. There we go. Who's going to be next? Who's it going to be? It is Glenn. Awesome, Glenn. Okay, so you two will be getting a lovely signed book with a special message from Robert. So one more book. We're very lucky to have had 3 books donated by Robert. I'm very excited to read all your book too, Robert. All right, who is it? Is it Rhonda? Okay, how exciting is that, everybody? I do like to see the way that wheel just creeps around and you're like, oh, okay. So I'll pop Robert's contact details in there again. And if you could just let him know your best postal address or how it's best to get it to you, he would love to share that book with you. And I'm sure he'd love to hear all about how you feel once you've read it as well. So there you go, Robert. 3 books are definitely going out your way. And there's a couple of people in the chat who would love to contact you for a book as well as myself.
Yeah, so thanks very much, Roxanne. Yeah, so it's you know, probably one of the best things in life is to give presents. so I love this, and certainly I thought rather than 1 or 2, let's go 3. That's for sure, and I'll certainly sign them and put my one of my many little messages in the signing cover there. And I'm sure you'll love the book, and you guys, and hopefully pass it on to people you love enough, because they'll be good too with it. So thanks very much, Roxanne, for the wonderful spinning wheel. Great stuff.
Congratulations to those of you that did win. Rosalind, I'm just going to delete your address there and I'll get you to email Robert. Roxanne will put your Robert's email address in there and you can privately send him your address. Now, on closing, I've got 2 things for you. First of all, I'd like to just say, let's all give Robert a round of applause for writing this book and for this official book launch. Thank you so much for being here. And I would like you, if you've got a pen and paper, maybe write this down. Roxanne can put it in the chat. And something for you to think about and reflect on moving forward. Where are you ready to take greater responsibility? Something that I started to reflect on after I actually read Robert's book a couple of weeks back. So where are you ready to take greater responsibility? Now, finally, just to wrap things up, I'm going to share my screen. We don't have any graphics, but we have a special surprise to end with tonight's official book launch. It is the official Ultimate Freedom, Be in Charge of Yourself theme song by Robert Kilsby.
Starts in me. Just you, just now. Every word, every detail comes from what you allow. You can circle the problem, step through the fear. Every time you decision, you're steering wheel. Until you feel.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and all the best. Thank you for being here. Good night, everyone. Take care. Good night. Thanks, Roxy.
Every choice, every promise to decide what's true. Ultimate freedom from the inside out. Take the reins, take the risk. That's what this says. It's how you live your life. Ultimate freedom. When you're in charge of you. Every choice, every promise you decide what's true. Ultimate freedom from the inside out. Take the reins, take the risk. That's what this is about. Ultimate freedom.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Great song. Take a risk.
I love it. I love it. I reckon it was great.
Oh, that's fantastic. I guess that'll be playing as you come on the stage, Robert, when you do your keynotes. You're on mute, Robert.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get that involved there. That's for sure. If not, when I walk on, certainly when I walk off. But
Yeah.
if anyone wants a copy of that, I'm more than happy to send it to them. You know, I play it to myself 7 times a day to keep pumped.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so if you want a copy of that, just send an email to me, or you know, connect with LinkedIn and say, hey, you know, I wouldn't mind. But whatever you do, when you play it, put the headphones on and play it loud, okay?
Thank you for joining us, everyone. Good night.
Lovely to meet you all.
Thanks all. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, mate. Bye-bye. Thanks, Melissa. Great work.
You're welcome.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Bye, Grant. Bye, Glenn.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Oh, it just take
I'm just removing some of them.
Oh
That's
yeah,
okay.
I was just trying to find my button because I took one out. Lovely to meet you, Glenn.
Take care, Glenn. I think he's frozen.
Maybe.
Yeah, frozen.
All righty.
There you
I'll
go.
just stop the recording
Welcome.
now.
I
How's
love
that
this
for
song, Robert.
timing?
I'll be playing that. You've sent it already to me, so I'll be playing